Good morning. It is from the Encyclopedia of Advice that I share with you 2 minutes of advice from my parents. I am Willie Crittendon, the oldest of 3 daughters of John and Odessa Williams. My father was a deacon in the church and my mother sang in the choir, and they were also regular dinner hosts to guest preachers at their church. I hardly remember a Sunday when we did not have a preacher as a guest at our dinner table. We, of course, were the servants. I suppose one of the best lessons learned from my mother was that mothers are the best CEOs of any company. I also learned that much of what was unspoken was exactly what was expected. My father being a man of few words, example, yes and no, I never recalled his saying maybe. If spoken at all, he would render what he called life lessons. Example, quote, he lived by, let your word be your bond, or be a man of your word. We would eventually understand to never judge others because, quote, people do what they know to do. When they know better, they do better. We also realized as adults that tolerance is important in relationships because people are products of their experience and exposure. My mother, on the other hand, would lend her pearls of wisdom more by example. Her repetitive expressions of saying please, saying thank you, always be grateful and gracious would ring in our ears throughout the years of our growing up. My mother's charity of baking, that is, you would never buy a cake to take to the church or to the repast, was taking a cake or a chess pie to a repast or a church function, whether she knew the deceased well or not. We would ask, Mama, do you know him or her? Her response would be that she is the second cousin of Mr. Jones, who is a member of the usher board of some church. She would also always be very generous with her advice, whether it was solicited or not. Example, if you stay on your knees, you don't have very far to fall. I suppose my sisters and I quote almost daily one of these many life lessons. And perhaps the best advice from our parents that we live by on almost a daily basis is that education would give us independence, and that you should always let your word be your bond, and to always remember when people know better, they do better. Thank you.